Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of African Americans Ain't Africans, the talk thing show that proves without a shadow of a doubt that the so-called African American didn't find his way to America in the trunk of a ship. I'm your host, the Indigenous One. And today we're going to look at how the history of the indigenous people of America is being rewritten. And one of the things that you'll notice with what we do ourselves in for being trained what to do. The African American doesn't learn on his own. He doesn't take his cues from nature. He doesn't pick up from nature. He sits in a little box. He or she sits in a little box all day and have some foreigner tell them who they are, who their people are, what they do, what you're supposed to do. This is how the African American is trained. You got to get this. You have to admit that every species on this planet, they learn from nature. Ants learn from nature. Squirrels learn from nature. Deer learn from nature. Every natural species of the planet learns from its mother, the planet. I mean, this isn't hard. This is just, you can see this when you open your eyes in the morning. The African American doesn't go that way. The African American doesn't move unless somebody tells them to move. Now, a lot of you will get mad at that, but that's just the way it is. I didn't make the rules. So what I want to show you, and these are for the real young ones, the 7 and 8 years old, because you probably haven't got old enough to understand yet. And most of what you call African Americans now, I don't care how old they are, what they call themselves, they're finished. And then you can see that if you can pay attention to what's going on. One of the ways that African American uses to keep their children and other people's dumb, and other children dumb, is by continuously lying. As a matter of fact, the African American lies so much when the truth is told, they go off because their whole life is a lie. And that's why you see them all in the news. Nothing, no day passes without the African American somewhere in the news. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The African American is just a moniker that was given to them by other people to do work for the other people. And now that, like I said earlier, now that they're finished using the African American, they're no longer viable to their program. Now it's time to discard the African American. And I'm going to show you how the African American bought this amongst themselves. Because one thing that the African American does is that someone is always doing something to us. And they are. But you're the one who said it's okay for them to do it. Every time you open your mouth, you say it's okay for them to do it. Matter of fact, you teach your kids that it's okay to be an ass and you can do what you want. This is the thinking, not of all of those, but the majority, the vast majority. Today, I want to share with you a little something on how the African American is of little of no importance anymore. And this is what they brought upon themselves. And I want to share with you some things that are being put out in the mainstream that's showing how you're controlled, how what you think of yourself is not what it is. What you think of yourself is what other people tell you to think of yourself. And when they tell you to think of yourself as black, you will be black, which is why you see what's going on today. Because there's no black people in the world, and I'll show you that a little bit today. But I want to share with you is this publication that was put out. It's called Why Black Men Built the Capitol. It's a book. You can find it online, whatever, if you just choose to purchase it. Black Men Built the Capitol. And If you look at the bottom, if you look at the bottom of the Capitol, it's discovering African Americans, how they built the Capitol. So remember, this is for the youth. This is not for all you African Americans who believe what you've been told. This is for people who really don't know and people who are really trying to find out. And what I want to show you in just these 8, 9 words at the top, Black men built the Capitol. Keep that in mind. And then if you go down, it's discovering African Americans, whatever. African Americans wasn't the Capitol was built in the late 1700s, 1789 or something like that. The term African Americans wasn't even used then. This is how your history is revised. African Americans weren't even around in 1789. Now, of course, we'll get those who, we are an American, they just changed our name. How can somebody always change your name and identity and you have nothing to do with it? You have no say-so into what you're named. You have no say-so into nothing what you do. Yet you get upset when somebody tells you what's being done. And we make it simple. And African Americans ain't Africans. We make it so simple. With 5-year-olds understand what's going on. What you call the African American now is dumb. So, and you'll see like this brother who wrote this book. This dude's a professor. This dude's a professor. He goes on all the talk shows and goes around to tell you this stuff, and it's to confuse you, to keep you in the position that you are in today. And I know many of y'all are cave for him and say, well, he didn't know. Oh yeah, they know. They know. So Black men built the Capitol. So if that's true, if black men built the Capitol, this is the kind of cat that built the Capitol. According to you. This is the person, hold on, let me find it. It's coming. Oh, hold on, my bad. I want to show you this because psychologically, this is what we do. This is how we're trained. So when they say how Black people built the Capitol, they're talking about the person on the right. These are African Americans. These are scholars. These are geniuses. These are people who come on TV and pump in your head, this is what you are. You are Black men and women. You are the person on the right. Now, this is what they say every day. Every word that's uttered out of a Negro's mouth, he's calling himself Black. And if I say, dude, you're not Black, you look like the side of a mountain or a tree. You take this brother to the left out in the forest and you wouldn't even see him because he blends in with his natural environment. And this is what we do. This is what we teach our children. You teach your children that they are that on the right. Yes or no? Yeah, because I just showed you how Black people built the Capitol. This is our mindsets. This is what we teach our children. And then when we get shot in the ass, we mad. Now just imagine if you're chanting Black, 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 Black all day long. All throughout the country, the people are chanting that term. That's the frequency that you vibrate at. That's the frequency that you vibrate at. What do you think other people from around the world are going to think of you if you do that? You don't mind being a monster because you damn sure act like one. This is what other people from other lands, they teach the monsters in their myths. The monsters in all their stories are black. They come over here and that's what you call yourself all day long, and you do it with your fist in the air. This is what we teach our children about themselves, about them being black. So he says black people are the ones who built the Capitol. Then he tries to put in, and this is the cold part about it. This is what he does. This is this is what you have to get. This is what you have to understand. This is what you have to teach your children, how they're being had. Black men built the Capitol. So that brother picture, that thing you just seen on the right, that built the Capitol. Now we all know that the picture of that black man, that's not how we look. And so we'll say something stupid. Well, I mean black the extent. We always try to cover it up and make it seem right or try to make sense out of it. But it never makes sense. Remember, you are living a ritual. You're repeating something over and over and over again. And it's not just you hear it. This is the point where we get lost. You're not just hearing this. Other people from around the world are hearing this. And if they hear that coming death, what does black mean? What does it mean? In their cultures. In many of the, you go into the Indian culture, black means they dog the black people over there. You would think we would understand that, but we don't. We don't. And we always have an excuse why we all this education and all this stuff and simple stuff like this, we never pick up. Remember, black man built the Capitol, discovering African American. So why are you so many different terms? Black, African American, jigaboo, all this. Why, what? And all that does is create confusion. All that does is create confusion, not just with you, but when you put it out there in the ethers, it carries all around and we pick it up. And this is all that's swirling around us. This is the cloud over our heads. So now I'm gonna get into this is just a little a training session for the young people, so you can, when you're doing research, because when you're doing research, do not go look up what nobody else wrote or said, not even me. What do you say? You have to discover things. I can tell you some things that I discovered, but from what you've been taught prior, you will be mad, nigga, you lying, So you have to discover things yourself. You have to discover things yourself. And so you have to ask, if black men built the Capitol, discovering African American, remember that African American thing down here, because you'll notice that the term black wasn't used when the Capitol was built. The term African American wasn't used when the Capitol was built. So this is what I mean, how they're revising history. They're trying to put the African American in a place that he was never there. We'll believe it and become confused as all outdoors. This is how the African American is trained. This is how the African American is trained to believe. The term African American wasn't used in the 1700s. But he'll put himself in the 1700s. This is how your history is rewritten. This is how your history is rewritten. So, well, how do you know that? So all you have to do, and this is just an example. This is just one example of what I did. This is one example of what I did, and you can use it too. But this is nobody told me this, nothing. Just reading stuff, just picking up information on indigenous Americans, and you come across what other people have written, and you can use that. I'm not saying not use it and not ask other people, but you can use it in your findings, because once you find this, you can find other things, and there's all kind. I'm gonna share a couple of things with you today to show you have to do the research. Don't rely on nobody else, because you're gonna normally get some bullshit. So the Capitol was built in like 1793 or something. So I just said, okay, so what were the people called back then? What were the indigenous people called back then? And I just found this passage. It's from a writing from a cat named Jack Forbes, from a paper he wrote called "The Use of Racial and Ethnic Terms in America: Management by Manipulation." This is just something this cat wrote, how he was seeing things back then, or what he found out and stuff, and how it's manipulated. And I found what is written is really what's going on. So I just want to share this little thing with you so you can see. English usage is very little different. John Wesley in 1747 referred to the First Nation people of Georgia as the Americans. Keep that in mind, because I'm going to show you something, and this is how you find out who you are. The Quaker traveler William Bertram, after a lengthy tour among the Creeks, Cherokees, Choctaws in the 1770s, refers to them as the Americans. Remember, this is English usage. English usage. Keep that in mind, because you're about to get your socks blown off. Samuel Johnson's dictionary has American, from American, Aboriginal native of America. Okay, so now you can start to see where, it's starting to get real tricky, because they're using all of these terms to explain to something simply. America, the Americans. Why they got to be Aboriginal, native, blah, blah, blah. Now they're taking away from what they're telling you who they saw. Do you think the Choctaw, do you think the Creeks, do you think the Cherokees call themselves Aboriginal natives? These are things that you are going to have to look at. Not what nobody tells you. You are going to have to discover this. You are going to have to be in such a way of thinking that you got to realize that this is talking to you. An Aboriginal Native American, an inhabitant of America. That's not an indigenous person. There's a lot of people who inhabit here who came over here to take your stuff, and they call themselves Americans. Okay? Such of late, Columbus found the Americans so girt with feathered censure, and Addison from The Spectator, the Americans believe that all creatures have souls, not only men and women, but brutes, vegetables, stones. When you start really digging into what Americans are, they're you. They're your people. Your people didn't call themselves black. Your people didn't call themselves African American. Your people didn't call themselves Negro. These were the name placed on them from the encroaching invaders. They gave them names that they were conquering them. You are going to have to find this out. You are going to have to discover this. Nobody else is going to tell you. Not your teachers, not your scholars, none of them, because they fell for the trap. And so now you have social groups, social media groups, where you have other races coming in telling the Negro who he is here. And the Negro goes with it. They'll stand with them and fight with them. But you know what's funny? The people who are calling you and telling you who you are, they never can tell you who they are. But that doesn't matter. The Negro, the African American will stand and fight with anybody against his own people. That's what the Buffalo Soldiers did, right? Yeah, I love the Buffalo Soldiers. What did the Buffalo Soldiers do? The Buffalo Soldiers went and helped and cleared out the people that's now Nebraska, Oklahoma, Iowa. Remember those indigenous people up there? What happened to them? Who helped clear them out? The Buffalo Soldiers, who y'all lick in the mouth every chance you get. That's why we suffer. Because we rah, 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 rah. Whatever fucks us up, we back it up. We stand firmly and proud that we did that, not knowing what we did. Most of your mamas and daddies did that. So when you go over to and fight in these wars in these other countries, you don't think the Vietnamese remember what the Negro over there did to them? You don't think they're coming over here to do damage to you, but you just lick everybody you see in the mouth. You don't think the Korean War, you went over there and helped kill off those people? You don't think those people are going to remember what you did? Because you will forget. No, you'll forgive. No, you forgive. You forgive everybody. Are those people forgiving to you? This is what our children are taught. If you look in all the major cities where Negroes live, all those wars that have been going on in America since World War II, Japan War with Japan, Korea, all of that, the Negro was used to help wipe out those people under the term America, because the Negroes were the Americans. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. It's just simple things that you have to do. And you go, oh, but you have to do it. Don't let nobody else tell you, including me. See, because I'm already aware that Negroes don't listen. They only do what they are told, period. Now, how do you know that the so-called African American, jigaboo, whatever he calls himself, how do you know that they're not, that they're Americans? Because they tell them, first of all, they displace them. They tell them that they're not from America, they're from Africa. And all the Negro has to do here, and all the Negroes who call themselves African American, I just tell them to go take blood tests against, or what, DNA tests against the people where all the Africans was dropped off here. They came from where you from. Y'all should be the same people. They don't do that. They run away from that. Why? Because the story is a lie. See, the African American his whole life is a lie. His hair is a lie. His shoes is a lie. His clothes is a lie. Everything about him is a lie. Everything. But they believe it. And when they believe it, it's there's no turning back from it. This is the wrong one. You see that? Oh, come on. It's right. I'm gonna be right with you. You got to see this. You got to see this. You got to see this. Nah, sorry. You got to see this. You got to see it. Because things are real simple. Things are real simple for us. But we got to be willing to check this stuff out and dig and do the work ourselves. Hopefully this is it. If this is not it, okay. When you break down these words, you got to remember that these people didn't come over here spelling like they spell, talking how they talk. They got absorbed by the indigenous culture over here. They got absorbed by the indigenous culture over here, which is the culture that your people laid out. So it wasn't just people from England coming over here. There were people from Spain, what's now called Spain, what's now called Germany, what's now called Portugal. All those people were coming and passing through, and they left what they found, who the people were, how they acted, what did they do, what were they like? The people over here didn't act like the people in Germany. They didn't dress like the people in England. They didn't talk like the people in Spain. They had their own way of doing stuff. And remember, these people, if you read a lot of the, what's that language, Latin, their words wasn't like what's going over here. These are things that we should be picking up. So in coming with America, remember, these people talked in one syllable words. They talked in grunts. They weren't you. You're the one who changed the language, but you don't believe that. You just believe you're black. So when you look up American, remember, other people were coming through. The French were coming through. The Spanish were coming through. And they named places, and those names stuck. So when you look up the term American and you break it down, when you look up AME, that was those people's words for soul. Soul. That's giving you a hint right there. Who are the soul people to everybody all over the earth? I mean, used to be. Now you're not. But used to be. Who used to be the soul people? Who everybody knows is the soul people? The whole world knows. The whole world except the African American. Because he'll say, this is what the people found here, soul folks, but the African Americans say, we not from here, we from Africa. This is what they teach their children. So in the term America, when you break down the word, and do this with every word that you come across, break it down, because a lot of them are compound words put together to make up a word, put together with another word to make up a word. That's you. You do that. So am translate to English as soul. So, and remember, American wasn't the word. American. American. The word wasn't how you see it. They're trying to hide your identity. That's why they'll change the tone, the inflection, so you won't figure out nothing. And all you have to do is go to Google Translate and do this. That's one of the homeschooling things that we should be teaching our children today. We won't do it. You're in the middle of this pandemic. There's all kind of ways to teach your children, push your children psychologically ahead of the rest of the world. We won't do it. We refuse to do it. So am equals soul. Oops, wrong one. Check this out. It's so that's am, A-M-E, is soul. Rico translate to rich. It can be Rican or Rika. You know how they do that that masculine, feminine of the word. But we're just going to take the word that it derives from, Rico, rich. So the definition of an American is rich soul. Who are the soul people? Who are the people that everybody from around the world tries to come and steal and live off of? Not black people, what you love to call yourself now, Black Lives Matter. They about to show your ass it don't matter at all. This is the simple. I think I explained this in less than 30 minutes, who the Americans are. And then I just showed you a passage where people write, and you can go back, if you go back and read books and writings from the 1700s, the 1600s, if you go back and read, please read, because your parents don't read. Tell you who you are. This is just this simple. You're not a Hebrew. You're not a Greek. You're what you see now with the African Americans. They're probably broken down into 80 different versions of a person. And this is where we are. Rich soul people. Now they call themselves black. Now, if you go back and look up the etymology of the word black, black used to be pronounced black. You know, like when you're about to throw up. Black. That's how black used to be. They used to say the word. And that's what you call yourself today. You're the most educated, and that's the stupid shit that we say. So, but those people, the Americans, soul people, rich soul people, they now call themselves black. Do you understand now why all the confusion, why you're always in the news? Not a day goes by. Not a day goes by when the so-called black people, African American, are not in the news here. And it's not in the news for something good. It's always in the news because those people who they're showing you is like a commercial. People, man, we're being put in all the commercials. Well, you were always part of the commercial. You were always on the Aunt Jemima pancake box. Why? Because people buy because they trust you. Why you gotta say it like that? How don't you see it? They use you to market their stuff. You don't make it. You don't benefit from it. They just put your face on it and people will buy it. Why? Because you're the rich soul people. But you call yourself black. You call yourself African. This is what we do. This is where we are now. We call ourselves Black. I hope that was simple enough. I try to make everything simple. I hope that was simple enough to let you know who the people, who what you call African American, what their ancestors were, or who their people were. Now, listen, trust me. I'm gonna get an argument from a whole bunch of Negroes. They're gonna try to chant that down because that's what we do. We won't take that information and use it for our benefit. We'll take that information and try to chop the head off of the dude who bought it to us. Amen? That's what the African American does. So we remember where we're at, 1789. This is the Capitol building. On the top of the Capitol building is supposedly is a indigenous sister on top of the Capitol building. How come there's no African on top of there? Why are you always on the money? They got Negroes on the money. You on the money. Get the book, Confederacy Currency by John Jones. You on the money. What happened? I didn't know. Yeah, you never know nothing. And that's what you pass down and teach your children, nothing. That's how you're in the position that you're in now. It's not what nobody else does to you. It's what you allow other people to do to you. And you happy, you love it. You love being the picture in the world that you are now. You love it. Another piece that you would want to see or want to ask yourself these questions. Is that a Black person? Is that an African American? Is that a Negro? No, that looks like many of y'all's granddaddies, great-great-grandfathers, great-great-great-grandfathers. But you won't accept that. But if somebody tell you are African, you run to that. That's how we get dogged out. We won't even honor what we come from. All I'm told is you just hate your African self. These are what your scholars teach. This is the education you're sending your children to go get. To be dumb and mad because we're figuring out that you're dumb. So the people who teach you that, they teach you that because somebody give them a job to teach that, because you don't create anything for yourself. African Americans don't create nothing for themselves. Never have, never will. They do what they're told to do. That's their only purpose of being. Right or wrong? You damn Skippy. So some other people will come over here from Mongolia, put the name Native Americans on themselves, kick you out because you are African now. They've been taught that you are African. Everybody's been taught that you are African. Why? So they can have free access to your land. And you happy? You running to Africa? This is what the Negro in America does. So the Native American can come in and make some noise about this. Get our people off that ain't even them. That's what I don't get. That's what I don't get. how do they even get in the conversation? And that's not even them, because the African American let them in. The African Americans say, that ain't me. The African Americans say, that ain't my people. I'm African. Anybody can come pick it up and take it and use it for their benefit. Anybody. And that's what they do. Then you on the outside, how come I can't have a casino? Because you let them come and take your name and land. They say they're Indian. You don't say you one. You say you are African. You say you're nothing. You say you black. So other people just come take up what you throw away and use it for their benefit. And you ain't walking around here eating out the trash can, throwing your women in the garbage, doing all kind of stupid shit. And have the nerve to open your mouth to try to tell somebody anything. Sit down. This is where we are. You think this guy that's on this image right here, you think his people call themselves black? You think that their people call themselves African American? Other people, they don't change their names. They don't change their ethnic identities. They're the same thing today as their people was 500 years ago. Guess who's the only people who changes their mind like a wig? And we're not the ones spreading that. These are other people coming and telling you what to call yourself. You cool with it. And the evidence is all in your face. You just turned into the channel of stupidity, and you pass that down to your children. This is the last one I want to share, because I just want to make these points so you can see, man, we ain't in here playing. We ain't got time to bullshit our kids. I mean, I know many of you listen, okay, you can do what you want to do. You can tell your kids whatever you want to. I've shown this image before. It's the reconciliation between Britannia and her daughter America. This was drawn in the 1700s too. And as you can see, her daughter America is the sister right there who's running to her arms. This is the proof to you that you didn't call yourself black, you didn't call yourself Negro, you didn't call yourself African American in the 17 and 1800s. These titles change so other people can pick and steal your heritage. And that's how it's done. And you let them walk right in. That's a Native American woman? No. That looks like your mama. Any sister you see walking down any city could be her. Your daughters, your aunts, your friends, your lovers, whoever. That's her. And we don't even see it. We won't even pass this type of information down to our kids. We'll cuss it out and tell the person who's presenting it, sit your ass down. That's what the African American does. Right or wrong. Damn Skippy. So this is what we do. And then you see all the other people. You see the Dutch over there. You see the French. You see all these people pulling at her, trying to get her away from Britain. These are the things you have to find out and put together in your head. You have to figure this stuff out, because the African American is not going to tell you. The African American, their purpose is to keep you dumb. And I know some dumb people who'll be pissed off at African Americans being called dumb, because they're nowhere near dumb. They call them zombies, because this all your history that everybody's stealing, you just sitting there with your thumb up your ass looking at them do it. and dogging out the people who's telling you the truth and passing the truth. So this is information is for the 5-year-old, 6-year-old. You'll grow into this, because by the time you grow up, what you know as African Americans, many of them they'll be obliterated. And we're seeing it right now today. So this is what I wanted to share today. I hope the youngsters, you can figure this out. You can use this as part of your, your growth. But you are not African. You didn't come over here on no slave ship. Once you start figuring it out, you'll figure out that's the dumbest shit you've ever heard. The African American, they believe it. And and also check your emotions too, because one of the things the African American does, their emotions are always triggered. And when their emotions are triggered on something, they'll believe it for the rest of they'll die believing it, even if it's wrong. Remember, African American Christians pray that their children don't prosper if they don't accept the Lord. You can't fall into those kind of traps. Cool. So listen, I'm going to go ahead and end right now. I hope this was helpful to you. You're not African Americans. You're the Americans, the soul people of what we call here in America. Pass this on to all the people you know. Much love.